The metaverse is the worst thing ever made.
The metaverse used to be a laughing stock. It was ridiculous with headlines about
What about like wasps? I think wasps have to be worse than the metaverse, right? Yeah, I mean, damn.
adding legs, or the fact that it feels like an abandoned mall, or obviously the Wii Sports tier graphics. For almost 2 years since the first announcement, people have laughed at it, thinking that it was a joke, a catastrophic mistake by Mark Zuckerberg, billions wasted on these terrible cartoonish characters. People everywhere online were talking about the end of the metaverse, why the metaverse will never be successful, and ever since it's always been laughed at, never taken seriously, until now. In a recent episode on Lex Friedman's podcast with Mark Zuckerberg, reality set in as Mark Zuckerberg blew away all expectations.
The following is a conversation with Mark Zuckerberg inside the metaverse. Mark and I are hundreds of miles apart from each other in physical space, but it feels like we're in the same room because we appear to each other as photorealistic codec avatars in 3D with spatial audio.
I think this is really cool, man. I do. I think this is impressive. This is awesome.
This technology is incredible, and I think it's the future of how human beings connect to each other in a deeply meaningful way on the internet.
Using some facial scans and some experimental headsets, it became clear to everyone that VR is getting scarily realistic. Whilst this was only a tech demo,
yeah, look at that. Holy shit, bro. Like, that's fucking impressive.
the new technology is able to transmit detailed facial expressions data in real time. These are overlaid onto a 3D model, giving seamless photorealism to what used to be a cartoonish joke. And it's just the latest of a whole warehouse.
I mean, to be fair, the original Metaverse graphics were really bad. They were really, really, really bad.
Of Pandora's boxes that the tech industry has been opening. From ChatGPT preparing for full AI integration with smartphones to Meta's new smart glasses and headsets, we are standing on the precipice of a holographic future. The biggest recent development is obviously the new technology that was shown off in the podcast. It was conducted completely as VR avatars, with a split screen showing each layer of it. First, the reality of Zuckerberg and Friedman wearing VR headsets and headphones. Then,
I think that's just so amazing. I do. I think this is cool. Yeah, this is a huge step. Yeah, exactly. Like, they upgraded to Unreal 5. I mean, it seems like it, right? Especially with like that lighting, because that's something that Unreal does very well. Yeah, look at this. This is amazing.
3D imaging facial scan, and finally the accurate real-time VR image they were both seeing. To say it's an upgrade is a massive understatement. Meta went from this, these goofy looking uncanny valley.
Yeah, bro, that's insane. Yeah, nobody wants to look like that on the right. Bro, yeah, that's a Wii Fit avatar.
Characters to nearly photorealism. But how did they make the jump so quickly, and why didn't they make a bigger deal out of this? Well, we're still a little way off of seeing this as a consumer product. According to Zuckerberg, the scans took hours using a specialized machine at Meta's offices. And even then, they only really capture the head and the shoulders. The arms, torso, and the rest are a little bit trickier and seemingly out of reach for now. But if technology has proven anything, it's that once you see these sorts of things in tech demos, it won't be long before we see them in reality. Computers the size—
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's the thing, is that like, a lot of people look at the current version of something and they say, oh, this is bad. But the truth is, like, this is an evolving technology, right? I mean, you think about like how video games were whenever I was a kid, right? Or whenever you guys were kids, like probably a lot different than they are now.
Of a room shrunk down to a small box in barely a decade, while getting more powerful by an order of magnitude. And it won't be long before you can spend a couple of minutes scanning yourself with a smartphone, then use this technology straight afterwards. And the uses for this technology are almost infinite. And they aren't all insidious, but they do seem wrong in some way. Lots of people are discussing the possibility of bringing back the dead as digital avatars. Using AI models of their personality, combined with this technology, would create a realistic visage that could speak as that person. With a decent scan, you could talk—
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is weird, but like, I don't want to micromanage the kind of weird stuff that other people do. Like, let them do it. Like, who cares? Like, oh my God, somebody's gonna do something weird. Like, well, let's not have the technology at all. Gives a fuck.
To anyone. From your own lost loved ones, the greatest figures from history. It's an unsettling idea.
And let's check this guy out.
It's America,
I mean, who hasn't wanted to play a text, adventure game with Snoop Dogg?
They won't really be those people, of course. Just what—
Bro, Beethoven, that's a good looking dude. God damn.
whatever the AI model thinks they are, combined with a 3D
George Washington? Oh my god.
model. But having them right in front of you, combined with the way AI can seamlessly mimic human expressions, is frightening. And you can easily imagine how this will impact our own lives. If the technology is there, people will be using it for this purpose, there's no denying it. But how can people be expected to move on with their lives? Having constant access to a representation of someone you lost could be like torture. However realistic
I don't know. I feel like there's always like this weird thing that everybody has like this mindset that they have to control the morality and like the indulgences of other people. Like, yeah, I think it's kind of weird to do that, and I don't think it's healthy at all. And I wouldn't recommend somebody to do that. I don't think it's a good idea. But like, who am I to tell somebody else what they should do in their life to make them happy? So like, if they want to do something, why can't they do it? Like, is it really a bad idea that like people can do what they want to do, right? I mean, like, what the fuck?
You simply can't reduce people down into a set of responses in a 3D image. Whatever Meta, OpenAI or Apple come up with won't ever compare to real people for a long time, maybe never. This technology might help the grieving process for some people, but it will just draw it out or stop it entirely for others.
I just don't think that's like, I feel like in a lot of ways, like, I don't think I have like the moral authority to tell another person how they should grieve for somebody or how they should process loss. I could tell them like what I think is a good idea or not, right? But like what I think tell them is fine, but it's enforce it on them is the problem. Like, I don't think I have the moral authority to enforce you should do this certain thing.
People in an awful limbo stage. The problem is just one part though of how this technology would draw people away from reality and further into our digital world. The more
I think you can make that argument with like a computer. People made that same argument with like computers and smartphones though, you know what I mean? Yeah.
realistic VR becomes, the more people will be sucked away from the real world. We're already seeing the start of this everywhere. When you look around, you see people retreating into their phones mid-conversation, or like how some people seem to live their entire lives online. Most people spending around 4 to 6 hours a day just on their phone. And Meta's gamble is simple. As the world keeps getting worse in this crisis and VR gets more realistic and enticing, more people will get hooked. Every new part of life they can synthesize will be plugged into the Metaverse. Alarmingly, in the Lex Fridman podcast episode, Zark kept describing the end goal of Meta, blending the digital and the real world together so that reality is practically indistinguishable.
Another thing,
I think that's obviously the goal, right? I mean, like, is you want to have reality and the people that are engaging in the metaverse to not be able to distinguish it from real life. That's like the goal with like any of those, you know, isekai animes, right? Like that's Sword Art Online, etc. So yeah, I mean, definitely this is what the goal is. That's what people want to do. And again, I don't really see this as being a problem. Like, why is this a problem? Like, if somebody wants to live their whole life on the internet, who gives a fuck? It's their life. Yeah, that's what I think, man. I mean, damn, playing video games in the metaverse is getting, it's very impressive. Exactly. Society gives a fuck. But what right does society have to impose their moral will on the individual in the cases of the individual not hurting society as a greater like space, a greater entity? Like, that's really what the issue is, right? It's not that like society can disapprove of something, and I don't think people should have to approve of this. You can think this is weird as fuck, right? But I just don't think it should be disallowed. Does that make sense? Yeah, sure, it's weird as fuck. But, like, people are weird as fuck. So what's the surprise? How is that sustainable for society? How is society sustainable right now? Yeah. The result is lowered birth and it will hurt society? No. I don't necessarily think that's 100% true. I mean, Japan's having those problems now and they don't have this VR shit. I mean, or if they do, they have the same stuff that we do. I think it's a cultural thing. You don't need everybody reproducing.
I think it's going to be fascinating about being able to blend together the digital and physical worlds in this way is we're also going to be able to embody AIs as well.
And what's scary
is that I think the main reason why people don't have kids is because they can't afford them. So, like, really, society is saying, like, okay, so it is kind of like what I said before about, like, the video we looked at yesterday. It's like, okay, so the problem is that, like, guys can't get girlfriends, so they look for AI girlfriends. Okay. So is really that the problem, or is the problem is that the guys can't get the girlfriends in the first place? Because the issue is that people, it's not that they don't want to have kids, it's that they feel like they can't have kids. They don't have the resources to have kids, they don't have the time to have kids, they don't have the autonomy to have kids, so they don't really have the option to do that anyway. So it's not like they're going into VR instead of having kids. I think they're going into VR because they can't have kids. Now, obviously, you're going to have overlap, sure, But I think the real problem is that people feel like they don't have the autonomy to do that in the first place. How far can you blame the individual? Well, I'm saying like it's a systematic problem.
Watching this podcast, you realize he's right. This is coming. This is the future. Already our minds are already interconnected with this digital realm. We find ourselves increasingly connected to virtual spaces. Almost subconsciously, our devices have begun to function as an extension of our very consciousness, with our memories, preferences, secrets, passions, emotions, all attached to the virtual world. However, when our very existence and cultural fabric become enmeshed in this realm, it's a moment for profound reflection, and is leading to what the philosopher Robert Nozick coined the experience machine. And his idea of the experience machine eerily mirrors the essence of the metaverse. In his thought experiment, he imagined a device that could be attached to one's brain, stimulating it to experience boundless euphoria. And if people were asked to experience this, most people would decline, as they would want a life imbued with purpose, not just constant undeserved happiness. But let's push the boundaries a little bit here. What if there existed a mechanism that could somehow trigger infinite significance, constantly giving you purpose in a digital world? Perhaps this is the precipice we're standing on now.
No, that's one of the best things about games. Have you ever gone and gotten up and played a video game all day long and done nothing else with your day, but because you had so much fun playing the game, you went to bed and you really feel like you did something that day? Those are the best days. Yep.
Metaverse offering a semblance of meaning and an avenue to escape loneliness by connecting all of us around the world in this digital world controlled by Zuck. From shopping, from businesses, social events, family gatherings, job interviews, all these memories, moments, and purpose within a world controlled by Meta. And in this world, you'll possess the capability to chase any pleasure you like, to craft any life that you dream of. And it may all feel consequential, like it would in the real world, but it's
I think the main issue is that a lot of the people that are looking to escape into the metaverse and do stuff like this, it's primarily because their real life sucks. So, like, again, this is the thing, right? Is like the metaverse is the worst thing ever made. You can say that, sure, but the metaverse is a solution. It is a symptom of a problem, but it's not the disease itself.
The mirage, designed to ensnare you within the metaverse's intricate web of control. In essence, the metaverse would become the ultimate intoxicant. And this isn't as far-fetched as you might think. Sean Parker, former Facebook president, has openly acknowledged the toxic influence that Facebook has over the autonomy of its users. He even revealed that when Facebook engineers conceived the platform, their primary objective was, in his words, to take as much of your time and consciousness as possible.
How do we consume?
Well, that's obviously the goal with any social media platform. Yeah.
As much of your time and conscious attention as possible.
Yeah, sure.
And that means that we need to sort of give you a little dopamine hit every once in a while.
Describing it almost like a narcotic, as he went on to say that Facebook fundamentally alters your connection with society and with one another.
The unintended consequences of a network when it grows to 1 billion or 2 billion people, and it literally changes your relationship with society, with each other, with it probably interferes with productivity in weird ways.
And this is the bare bones Facebook he's talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true for some people. Like for me, I used Facebook for a long time, and it never negatively affected my life, and it was totally fine. And I think that often, like, this is the case that happens, is that we look at the like weird, like social media addicted teenagers that are like hyper focused on it, and like obviously that's not healthy. But I would say that a lot of internet users and social media users aren't these super unhealthy weird people. They just use it to keep up with like friends and family, and that's about it, right? I think that those people kind of get overlooked.
What about an entire reality, an entire universe? And when he said this a few years ago, it barely gained any attention, and still, there seems to be no attention on this fact with the metaverse coming into our lives. No one seems to care about this. No one seems to care that our freedom is slowly going to be eroded in a world created by someone who calls his users dumb fucks.
They were. Mark Zuckerberg was right. I want to say again, he was right about this. They were dumb fucks.
As almost all of us are so addicted to our screens today, what's it going to be like when we start living in the ultimate experience machine, designed by someone who wants to addict your consciousness to it? The whole linchpin of metaverse success hinges on its ability to keep users glued to their screens, ensuring a constant influx of money. And it seems like very soon this is going to happen, as Zuckerberg announced his new smart glasses.
Yeah, I saw
the
this.
Next generation of Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses.
Okay.
Meta's headset, just the first step. Get ready for Elon Musk's Neuralink plugging into your brain, coupled with AI indistinguishable from reality.
Well, I also want to talk a little bit about the Neuralink. What they're using testing for Neuralink on right now is for helping people that are quadriplegic gain usage of their motor movements in those arms and legs, right? So I think that we have to look at the advantages of this technology, because I think they're insane and they're massive. Like there are, so like this is kind of like what my concern is with a lot of the conversations around this, is that the advantages to these things are so tangible and so real, and the disadvantages to them are oftentimes symptoms of larger problems. So like, for example, kids that get addicted too much to social media, how is this really the social media's fault? It's really the parents' fault, it's the society's fault, it's the culture's fault, and then we're blaming the social media. Well, what about blaming the parents? What about blaming the school system? What about blaming, the kid for, even to an extent, right? Kids are not completely accountable for their actions, but they're not completely unaccountable either, right? So the issue is that I have with these conversations is that, like for something like Neuralink, theoretically, right, is you have something that gives somebody the ability to maybe move their arms and the legs again for the maybe first time, or for the first time in 20 years. And the truth is that it might not work the first time, but eventually it will. You know for a fucking fact this shit is going to work eventually. And when it does, I think that's a really great thing. That is an incredible thing. Or kill them? Well, yeah, probably some people will get killed in the process. Sure. That's what happens. That's what happens with like a lot of experiments. But that's the price. That's how it is. What do we, it's okay. Yeah, that's life. And they're signing up for that. They know the risks. And it's collateral damage. Yes. There are more pros than cons. And what I'm saying is that the pros for this are so tangible and so real, and the cons are so intangible and oftentimes, in my opinion, symptoms of a disease rather than the disease itself. Asmon sounds like a mad scientist? No. The truth is, with any sort of medical experimentation at all, there are a lot of bad cases of things that go wrong, and it's been like that for the last 200 years. I'm not saying this as if it's a good thing, but that's how it is, man.
It won't be long before Tesla's androids are walking around our streets. And just like the dot-com bubble, markets are eating up this vision of the future. Although what's being sold as market salvation is actually growth in just 7 tech stocks. Opportunities that are long overhyped and overpriced by the time we get to them. In reality, every other company is sinking into the red. Inflation still rages. And even with a healthy 6-figure salary, many people are still living paycheck to paycheck. Now,
so many people with 6-figure salaries living paycheck to paycheck. I think that like it makes sense in a place like San Francisco, but if you're not living in like a place like that, I think that if you're making a 6-figure salary, let's take New York, LA, San Francisco, maybe Portland, Miami, like a couple of other places off the table. If you're not in one of those places and you're having trouble with a 6-figure salary, that is a you problem. With children, it's paycheck to paycheck. Oh, that's probably true. Yeah, as an individual is what I'm saying. Yeah, you're right. If you have a family to support, that's totally different.
Now, rich fat cats would have us blissfully watching Fast and Furious 17 on our Meta headsets, while they stay one step ahead, storing their wealth in secretive markets known for their stability. But now we can be the billionaires at their own game, getting into a market that keeps growing, fueled by the uber rich, the art market. Even during 2023's economic catastrophe, art market sales have risen above pre-pandemic levels.
Art market, what's this here? Art market has climbed above pre-pandemic level. Drove growth, but smaller players have had a harder time recovering. Well, yeah, of course, right? Because more and more people are going to be aware of this stuff. I think there's been a lot of awareness marketing for this kind of stuff. So yeah, it makes sense.
Luckily, you too can invest in this market without needing Elon level money, because our longtime sponsor Masterworks has already sold over $45 million of luxury art.
I don't know if that's a good idea or not.
Paid out directly to investors like you. In fact, Masterworks' platform has delivered net returns of 10, 17, and even 32% to name just a few, and with 800,000 plus members.
Why is it not a good idea? Many call Masterworks a scam. Sure, but why? Why is it a scam? Art is a poor investment. No, it's not. It's not a scam. It's an auction. Yeah, because you're feeding into the stability billionaires are using, ready for a rug pull. Nobody's going to rug the Mona Lisa. I don't know, like, I've heard people say this is problematic, but I've never really seen art has no real value. It has a like, you're right, but at the same time, that doesn't change the reality.
The Masterworks' offerings can sell in minutes, and there's a waitlist to join, but you can get special access to skip that waitlist at the link in the description below. You see, Meta's vision down the road is to enable fully immersive augmented reality entirely within the glasses. This is still a long way off, but this next generation brings us a whole lot closer. The inclusion of AI is the most advanced feature of these.
But the most interesting thing about this isn't any of those specs. It's that these are the first smart glasses that are built and shipping with Meta AI in them.
These glasses will bring it into the forefront of people's lives, literally seeing what they see. Right now, Meta is promising things like translating foreign text. Tomorrow, they'll
literally cyberpunk? Wow. That's great.
Be able to give you subtitles for what other people are saying in real time, or tell you how much longer you need to cook your dinner. Lots of these uses will only be good for—
Didn't Google Glass fail? Yeah. And so did the Microsoft Surface, but the iPad didn't. So did the Zune, but the iPod didn't. Yeah, I mean, bro, like, they made a tablet. Microsoft made a tablet. Like, correct me if I'm wrong about this. Was it 1999 or 2001? I think it was one or the other. Like, they were, like, way ahead of that, right? 1996? It was something like that. Yeah, it was nuts how early that was. But just people weren't ready for it.
It'll be revolutionary for people who have trouble hearing, for example. But on the other hand, it'll make people far more reliant on technology to go about their daily lives. When this happens, people forget these skills. Generally, we don't know which for people who have trouble hearing, for example. But on the other hand, it'll make people far more reliant on technology to go about their daily lives. When this happens, people forget these skills. Generally, we don't know which berries are safe to eat or how to chase down an antelope for dinner. It obviously doesn't matter anymore. But they're skills we lost as they became redundant. Similarly, as the AI gets more advanced, it will be able to do more and more thinking for you. But our ability to see and understand the world around us shouldn't be something we get machines to do for us. It's like adding
being able to see, so our ability to see and understand the world around us shouldn't be something that we get machines to do for us. I disagree, because I think a lot of times people do get machines to do that for them, and you're getting a machine to do that for you now. Like, for example, like, if you want to look at the Taj Mahal, like, you don't go to India to see the Taj Mahal. You probably look it up and you see pictures of it, right? Or you see, you get National Geographic or something like that. And I think that, like, we've been using technology to understand the world around us ever since we've invented technology. It's not the same, but, like, what is the difference, though? Where is the difference? Where do you draw the line? It's the same. It is fundamentally the same. Yeah, I understand this requires critical thinking, so there might be people confused, but explain how this is different. Lacks sensation and awe? I don't know. I think that, like, probably the first time people saw pictures in National Geographic of what the world looked like in Africa, I bet they were in awe. For sure. It's, again, context. Traveling isn't a skill and language learning is a skill. Traveling isn't a skill and language learning is a skill. I don't understand, like, I'm not sure I really understand what you're trying to get at. It's the same, it's augmentation. We've been using calculators and tills to do math now, and nobody wants to add up a fucking thing. Yeah, that's a great example, right? Like, how many people, like, if I went and I did, I don't know, like, fucking 31 times 57, okay? Most people, it would take them a long time to figure this out, and they would use a calculator. So the point that I'm making with this is that probably, I'd say, like, 30 years ago, people would probably have been better at solving this problem than they are today. That's my point, right? Is it like people would have been way better at solving this problem than they are today? Now, are people dumber than they were then? Absolutely not. It's a simple question, Asmon. Bad example. Well, what I'm saying is that I think that these simple questions are the best examples, actually, because the simple questions are the ones that show it in the most raw way. They're the ones that show it with, like, no restrictions, no, like, theoreticals, nothing like that. That's the stuff that's, like, people are literally dumber now because they don't know this. And this is a raw fucking fact. And you know what else? I think it doesn't matter. Because if I want to figure out what it is, 31 times 57, 1767. So I've already figured it out. And there will never be a realistic situation where I won't have a tool like that with me. And like, for example, in like the 1800s, right, or the 1700s, do you know what a lot of people learned about? Roman emperors, right? They learned a lot about this, and it was like the history of, like, you know, different Greek leaders and like Roman emperors and stuff like this. And now we don't know anything about that. Are we dumber now because we don't know anything about that? Yes, but no. We're dumber in that circumstance, but is that knowledge functionally useful? I don't think so. I'm 30. I know a bunch of phone numbers by memory. My brother's 18. He doesn't know any by memory. Yeah. We must be able to critically think. Critical thinking is dying because people can't do basic mathematics. So you think critical thinking is dying because of this. Do you want to know why I think critical thinking is dying? I think it's because people are not engaged. I think it's because their parents don't give a fuck about them. I think it's because the schools are just complete garbage. And those are the real problems and the real reasons why I think critical thinking is problematic. It's nothing like the, what do you call it? It's nothing about this other stuff. It's because of the schools that are bad. It's because of the parents that are bad. It's the way that they learn is problematic. And it's, again, this is what I was saying before, right? Is that whenever we're talking about the negative effects of technology, we're talking about theoreticals and symptoms of a disease, and we're not talking about the actual reason why these things happen. And it's like the advantages of this are massive, right? Like, they're insane. As a person whose job is to require a lot of critical thinking, I agree. Yeah, my AP European history class specifically changed some course history into world history because he personally believed that you could know 32 French kings named Linus, but it added very little to know what's important from a historical perspective. Exactly, right? So all knowledge is not created equal. There's a lot of things that people don't need to know anymore, and it serves no purpose or function. People are losing critical thinking by design. The education system is just a vehicle of the government ultimately. I think that you could be right about that, and I think you can make a strong argument that people are intentionally stupid. Sure, but that's not really what I'm talking about right now. What I'm fundamentally talking about right now is that people are... The reason why people don't have critical thinking is because they don't have to. I think that we're also going to be entering into an age where 80% of the human population is useless. Flat out. I think that's what's going to happen, like 200 years from now, probably. 80% of the human population will be completely useless. Totally irrelevant. How do you deal with 80% of people who have no value in society? I think that this is the only way you can. It's either that or you kill them all. Which I don't think they're going to do that. 80% of useless people will also vote. Yeah, that's going to be a very big topic. I think that we'll live to that. I don't know. It depends on what happens. Do you think humans will be around for 200 years? Yeah. Australia's getting automated. Could be true. Maybe that'll bring in more engineers in the future. And that's going to be the 20%. The truth is most people can't be engineers. You know why? Because this little fun thing right here called a bell curve, engineers have to be right here. So if you're right here, you're not going to be an engineer. That's just the truth. Because you're stupid. Yep, there's an int check. Yeah, you need 8 intelligence. They've got 4. So yeah, let's see here. We'll keep going. But yeah, I'll let me go back like 5 seconds just to make sure I'm caught up with this.
Ability to see and understand the world around us shouldn't be something we get machines to do for us.
Yeah, I don't agree with
It's
that.
like adding training wheels to your own brain. Another selling point for Meta
adding
is
training wheels to your own brain. We already do that. There's a lot of learning guides and learning tools that people have. I don't agree with this being a bad thing fundamentally. I think this could be used to enrich somebody's life. And I think the enrichment outweighs the negative effects.
Integration with Facebook and Instagram. With these glasses, people can constantly be recording their lives and everything around them. They can then live stream it or instantly
Yeah, Mark Zuckerberg said you're going to be able to live stream with the glasses.
post it online. It's the next way that Meta's found to break down the barrier between the real world and the virtual one. A slight reduction in the delay between you and social media. Never mind privacy, if such a thing even exists today, something that Mark Zuckerberg actively doesn't care about. And Meta's plausible deniability about this.
Well, I think Mark Zuckerberg does care about it. That's why he duct tapes his own webcam. I think that's very telling. Like, if you have somebody who has a better understanding of technology than like 99.999% of people in the whole world, and he tapes his webcam, and he thinks that the people that give away their information for free are fucking stupid, and doesn't he have like a massive wall around like his house in Hawaii? He cares a lot about privacy. It's just that he deals in a business of removing other people's privacy. That's it. Yeah, of course he cares about it. He cares about his privacy.
Comes from the little red LED that they put on the front to tell people when you're recording. But if you just cover that up, like your laptop webcam, nobody would ever know. Just by wearing these though, you're already hooked into Meta's digital world. But they're not the only company looking to centralize and dominate the AI market, of course. There is something equally as sinister happening with Microsoft and OpenAI, who are also getting in on the craze. As it was recently announced just a few days ago that OpenAI and the designer of the iPhone, Johnny Ive, are now collaborating on a project touted as the iPhone of artificial intelligence, marking OpenAI's debut into consumer devices. Backed by a $1 billion SoftBank investment, this early-stage venture, also involving SoftBank subsidiary Arm and Chip Design, aims to merge advanced AI with superior design to craft a consumer-centric AI device. While discussions are ongoing and an official agreement is yet to be reached, the product, spearheaded by OpenAI CEO Sam Altman and supported by Johnny Ive's design acumen, is anticipated.
I think like Google to an extent is AI. Like, people use AI as if it's different than what we have now. We don't have sentient AI. We don't have that. It doesn't exist. At least not yet. There are a lot of things that are artificial intelligence and that use machine learning now. I think that AI is being used in a lot of terms just as a buzzword. Like, I really think that, yeah, people use AI just as a buzzword. Like, oh yeah, this is AI. This is how, how's it work? AI.
Anticipated to hit the market in just a few years. Now, while OpenAI's trajectory seems likened to iPhone's revolutionary journey, I can't help but feel this is far more dystopian and marks a turning point in human history into a future where AI replaces human
I would say that smartphones massively changed how people interacted with the world. Like, smartphones, I think they were as impactful as computers. Like, they were huge. Like, everybody has a smartphone now. Like, it's so much, like, even video games have, like, characters that have phones. Like, children have phones. People use their phones for everything. They're massive. So this is another example of it happening, yeah.
And creativity, and their partnership with Microsoft and many other companies hints at a coming world where monopolies control not just technology, but human cognition itself. And their vision of an AI as user-centric as the iPhone might just be the chain that binds humanity to a future of digital AI servitude. Now, Apple, for all its flaws, does have some semblance of prioritizing user privacy. In contrast, OpenAI's proclamations of ethical AI seem like hollow reassurances when you consider the fact that Microsoft got rid of all of their ethics departments. You see, the path they're caving towards this iPhone of AI isn't a road to enlightenment, but to...
I think that, like, whenever you talk about AI and, like, the ethical ramifications, I think there's a lot of examples, like, a lot of times people don't really use actual examples. They use, like, kind of amorphous examples or, like, Skynet level examples. Because the truth is, like, you're using AI like it's a tool, right? And whether it's ChatGPT or, like, a picture generator or something like that, like, this is fundamentally a tool. And as in the same way, like, computers can be misused, or a smartphone can be misused, or a hammer can be misused, I don't see why you can't also misuse AI.
A world of more control, more inequality, and more importantly,
of course,
less freedom. Whilst the iPhone was a beacon of innovation, this new AI interface, if unchecked, could soon be the tool that erodes the very fabric of human individuality and freedom. And yet
I think people said the same thing about having cell phones, right, and smartphones, because the government can track everywhere you go. I actually don't think this is, like, really that much different of an argument than the things that people used with smartphones, right? And it did, yeah, it did. And so, like, this is just how it's going to be. I think really the problem with this is that the government does not operate in the best interest of, like, the public, and the government is not agile enough to deal with these problems as they happen. That's mainly what the issue is.
Same time, it almost feels inevitable because of the lack of government oversight in this area. I mean, the stark reality right now is that corporations, YouTubers, entrepreneurs, even workers that don't integrate AI will soon fall behind from the pack, overshadowed by those who embrace the AI revolution. Even if AI performs on par with or slightly below human capabilities, the economic benefits for businesses are undeniable.
Yeah,
and so imagine this on a greater scale when AI does overcome humanity, when its IQ reaches levels that we can't even fathom. Soon we'll have a new phone, a new computer, a new system that is far more complex than anything a human brain can even comprehend.
Sure.
And the reason governments aren't stopping this is because the governments that can harness superior AI will also inevitably outpace their counterparts. So
I think that's true, and then also the main reason why I think they're not doing anything is because they don't understand it. I think a lot of them just don't really understand it very well. It's probably not that much of a, some like Machiavellian reason. It's just that the people that are talking about these computer stuff, they don't really get it. They have like a secretary that does their email for them. What the fuck?
everybody in society right now has to jump into the AI revolution or be left with nothing. That's why we see no regulation here. That's why we see no pushback against this stuff.
I don't think that everybody needs to jump into the AI revolution. Like, for example, you're going to see AI revolutionize things like flipping burgers. You're going to see AI revolutionize things like coding. But it's going to be a really long time until you see an AI robot show up and he's your plumber. There's going to be a lot of jobs like construction workers, same thing. Now, there are machines that help build like actual, like, like they'll like pour concrete like perfectly and like make walls. Sure. But it's going to be very hard to have that actually replace real construction workers and physical labor. Like, it's ironic, right? Because people usually look down on physical labor, but their society does, I think, as a general trend. But the truth is, I think physical labor is like much more resistant to like AI advances, or at least like the type of like trade, like skilled physical labor is more resistant than a lot of like coding jobs, for examples.
Why it's taking over the world so rapidly, which is what freaks me out so much about OpenAI's new movement. Nobody can stop them, and nobody wants to. When all the world's top tech leaders like Elon Musk, Steve Wozniak, and many more had their proposal to pause AI research completely ignored by all governments and companies, no one cares about the potential risks. Everybody wants the profit and the control, and it mirrors this classic prisoner's dilemma.
Well, the problem is also that if you pause AI research and then everybody else isn't, you're operating at a disadvantage. Where while it might be good to pause it universally, it's not good to be the only people who pause it.
Organizations hesitant about AI, or those considering regulations, can't even trust the competitors to adopt the same restraints. So everybody keeps going forward, even though they know at the end of the day, this is the end game for humanity. And even if a consensus ever did emerge, there's always skepticism that global powers like China or Russia would halt their endeavors. And it's the same with companies.
Well, why would they? It's not in their benefit to disadvantage themselves.
If OpenAI or Microsoft stops, then Google, Apple, Meta will take over. And so every one of these big tech companies is pushing forward. And if these American companies aren't the ones that succeed, then it might be Chinese AI companies succeed,
or
completely
European
altering the geopolitical sphere. And that's why right now, we are witnessing a race analogous to that of the atomic bomb's creation. But the stakes and potential fallout might be even graver. Mo Gadwat, the ex-head of Google's AI department and an expert in AI technology, just recently painted one of the most chilling pictures of AI's unchecked potential.
The speed at which those machines were learning is staggering, but at the same time, the understanding we have about why they learn, why they do what they do, is very, very limited.
With OpenAI now officially giving ChatGPT the ability to connect to the internet, OpenAI can now amass and manipulate information at a rate that leaves human comprehension in the dust. And their journey towards the iPhone of AI is fraught with all the dangers that Mo Gadwat warned of, where AI eventually reaches singularity, the potential point of no return.
Oh, singularity is whenever they learn and they process information so fast that like it can't even be kept up with anymore.
Because
like
once AI surpasses human intelligence, it will spiral into a self-improving frenzy, evolving at speeds unimaginable to us. It'll speak to us like Einstein speaking to the lowest IQ person about relativity. They won't be able to even comprehend what the words mean. And so in a few years, how are we even going to control something that evolves faster than our comprehension? How do we instill ethics in an entity that just sees them as mere constraints? Especially when Microsoft is already...
Oh, I don't know if if AI sees ethics as constraints. I'm not sure if that's really what's happened or not. I mean, I think that it's important to keep in mind that like none of this AI has any sort of like actual sentience or consciousness, and I don't think they're very close to getting it. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, right? They could come up with it tomorrow, but like I certainly haven't heard anything about it, right? Yet? Oh, there's always going to be a yet, but like, when is this really going to happen? Probably not for a while. What is consciousness? Yeah, people don't even know what it is. There have been 50 years of development of fail-safes and boundaries that won't suddenly go mad. Yeah, I don't really think that's the main thing that you should worry about. I think that the corrosive aspect that it would have on society is much more realistic than thinking about like some theoretical, right? Some like crazy thing.
Getting rid of OpenAI's ethical departments. We are dancing on the razor's edge between unparalleled advancements and catastrophic consequences.
The man widely seen as the godfather of artificial intelligence has quit his job at Google, warning of the dangers of AI. In a lengthy interview with the New York Times, Dr. Hinton said he now regretted his work and is worried that AI technology will flood the internet with misinformation.
And OpenAI's quest for the iPhone of AI.
Which is also true. The AI that they have now gives bad information pretty regularly, right? I mean, like you see obviously survivorship bias for this, right? Where everybody sees whenever the AI does something right, but there are a lot of times whenever AIs fuck up constantly.
Is more than just a mission, it's a gamble with humanity. A gamble on whether AI will become an integral beneficial part of our daily lives, as the iPhone did, or whether it will spiral into an uncontrollable force, leaving
humanity... Well, there are a lot of people who view smartphones as a negative impact on people's lives. A lot of people see that. People are like, yeah, I don't want to, like, I think smartphones made people stupider. They made them, well, yeah, there you go. Like, they made people less aware. They made people, like, more, you know, like, fucking ADHD. Yeah.
Grappling with the aftermath of its own creation.
They still do.
As of now, the future of technology is looking incredibly similar to the present, completely controlled by a small set of monolithic companies designed to suck out as much of your time, attention, and money as possible. By meddling with the fabric of society, these companies will make hundreds of billions. AI and VR will only let them become more efficient at infiltrating people's lives and destroying freedom.
Well, shit. Yeah, I think that obviously that's going to happen to an extent. People are going to have less freedom with certain things, but I think the reason for that is because of the government and because the government not letting things happen, right? Or not regulating things. That's really the main issue, right? There's the video. I think this is actually a pretty good video, and this type of topic, like I love talking about this kind of stuff because I find it to be very interesting. But the truth is that, like, I think this stuff is going to happen more and more. And you're going to see more and more people that are look up Roku's Basilisk. Oh, I know all about that. But, like, how long until AI fucks a politician's wife? Oh, probably sooner than you might imagine. Because government now has the means to control efficiently. Exactly. Did you just try to equate regulations with freedom? Yes, regulations do in many cases amount to freedom for a lot of people. So basically, you don't want to have a situation where, like, a company has the ability to impose their will over an individual to an extent that it infringes on the individual's life. Yes, oftentimes, yes, regulations can actually increase the net freedom of the world, sure, or of a city, or a country, or whatever. Yeah, of course, I mean, like, how can you not think like that? Like what? Like, well, what are regulations, right? Regulations are laws. There's a law against slavery. The reason you can't do that is because it's against the law. The government doesn't let you do that. And that's a rule that everybody has to follow that increases freedom. Anyway, yeah, I think that the metaverse stuff can be very worrying for a lot of people, but I think as with every other type of technology, whether it's cell phones, smartphones, computers, calculators, whatever, the society and humanity will learn to adapt to it, and people will they'll do what works, right? And they'll keep the good stuff and hopefully get rid of the bad. Now, obviously, that won't happen with everything, but in general, I do think that's what will happen. You can't just pretend like AI is not going to happen. You can't just completely stop AI. It's just, and if you do, then other people will do it, and then they'll do it to their benefit and your disadvantage, right? So, yeah.